Hello and welcome to the Soulful Valley podcast. If you're a regular listener, thank you for listening and supporting this podcast. If you're new here and don't know me yet, I'm your host, Carey, independent publisher of books that matter and an international best-selling author, and of course, the host of this globally ranked podcast. I help metaphysical coaches and healers gain confidence, clarity, raise their visibility and their credibility, giving them the opportunity to shine their light brighter so that the people they are here to serve can find them. I do this by creating opportunities for them to become best-selling authors in my multi-author and solo book projects. I also offer one-to-one mentorship services to help spiritual business owners find and unlock their limiting beliefs. In this podcast, I'll be sharing wisdom from myself, coaches, authors and energy healers that could be just what you need to transform your life today. You can connect with me via the Contact Katie button at my website at www.soulfulvalley.com.
You gotta love yourself with all your heart. If you don't already, it's time to start. 'Cause nothing's gonna work out until you do.
Hello and welcome back to the Soulful Valley podcast. I'm coming back to you with the Energy of Money series, and we still have 4 more episodes to deliver on this series over the next few weeks, which I'm really excited about sharing with you. This year we have 3 book collaborations: Becoming the Manifesting Diva, estimated to launch in June. We still have a couple of author spaces for that, but we're really excited now as the chapters have started rolling in. And we've got another Soulful Poems collaboration for you, book 3 in the series. We've still got several poet spaces if you want to submit your poetry, and a 3rd book in the series for Evolving on Purpose has been birthed, and it's called Evolving on Purpose, Akashic Journeying to Wealth Consciousness. I just thought I would let you all know about these magnificent opportunities that we've created for 2024. I'm also supporting a couple of clients with their solo books starting from tomorrow, and I've got 1 more space for a solo author who either wants to be coached in creating her book or has already created a book and needs help with the publishing and a launch. If that's you, check out in the show notes. All of my opportunities will be linked there. And for now, it's back to the episode you came here for. Luke Scott III is a world-renowned spiritual mentor, award-winning international speaker, investigative journalist, and a television show host. Luke is the founder of the revolutionary quantum regression and integration therapy, also known as Q-RIT. This is one of the most powerful modalities in the world for creating lasting transformation and upgrades in your life and in the lives of your clients. Would you like to try one of the most powerful quantum healing techniques in the world? You can try a completely free Q-RIT session to upgrade any area of your life. Check the link in the show notes of this episode. Hello and welcome to the Soulful Valley podcast, Luke.
Yay! Yay!
We've been trying to get together for a while, haven't we, Luke?
We have. It's time. It's all perfect timing.
Yeah, well, I was about to interview you before I did your Q-RIT certification, so I knew that actually I was supposed to interview you after I'd been through that process. It makes sense.
Now you know a lot more about how my world works.
I do, so it definitely makes more sense. I discovered you, Luke, through a mutual friend, Ivan, who I just happened to have published on the podcast yesterday, and I was delighted to find you in the UK. Lots of people that are surrounding me are not in the UK, so it's quite rare.
Yeah, absolutely. There's loads of beautiful people in the UK.
Yeah.
Really hidden.
Yeah.
Like coaxing them to come out, come and play with us. And it's a big part of what I teach. I teach that life is made to be enjoyed. I used to be so serious. I worked in corporate. It was very intense, and I used to have fun on weekends, like these drug and alcohol fueled benders, where you just go and be free, and then you're back in the little box office again.
I remember
And
it.
now I just try and shake people. I'm like, come on, like come play. Life's supposed to be fun. And Ivan is such an amazing human. We connected really deeply because Ivan's very connected to their inner child energy as well. And we're both geeks, so we geek out and we sing each other's songs, and it's really beautiful to see someone who's got a certain level of success and then also is totally playful. I love those kind of people.
Luke, for the benefit of our audience, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Luke Scott III, and I have been running a public speaking business now for 7 years, since 2016. Before that, I was a sales director for an international software company. And before that, I was a senior sales manager for this $2 billion company. It's like 16,000 employees. You're like a little bee in a beehive. And I thought that that was what I wanted. Nice house, nice cars, making loads of money, everything conventionally that you're supposed to want. I was miserable. And if you are in that place right now, if you're in a place where you're in a breakdown, like where that you're not aligned, it's a great place to be. It might not feel great in the moment, but it's a great place to be, because that's when people say enough is enough and something has to change. And that's where I got to. I got invited to this event in London. It was a public speaking training event. And that was where I was at in my career. I was starting to do conferences and I needed to improve. And the public speaker basically said, do you know that you can do exactly what you're doing now in your sales director job, but on stage, travel around the world, run retreats, mentor people, make loads more money, have loads more fun? And I was like, what? That's amazing. Yes. And it lit this fire inside me. And I went back home to my girlfriend. And I'm like, I'm going to be an international speaker. I'm just going to travel around the world helping people. But it was so far out of what was the social norm, she couldn't even hold it. She couldn't believe that. It sounded made up. But then I found loads of people do this. They package up what they know, their skills, their talents, and they help other people. So I did that, and I got a great mentor. It took me about 6 months. And after 6 months, I was making more money in my business than I was in my job. So I quit my job, left my corporate career in 2016, never looked back. And now I help other people to do the same thing. So there's loads of different aspects to it. But one of the most important things is, first, we help people to figure out who they are. That's the core of it. And what is really, truly important to them. Because most people, if you're not happy right now, it's because you're not aligned with your values. And the way you're spending your time, you're doing things that you don't really, truly love. And it's a massive trap, Katie. Society, the way we work, it's a massive trap. The food's a trap, education system's a trap, government's a trap. And we have to break people free from it. So that's a big part of what we do. And I've been learning quantum hypnotherapy for 7 years now. And hypnotherapy is one of the most powerful tools I've found to help people shift their belief systems, clear traumas, upgrade themselves, step into their power. So I teach that now. It's called Q-RIT, Q-RIT. And like Katie said, she's come and joined us on the adventure. She's joined our Q-RIT tribe, and I'm basically shouting from the rooftops. If anyone is not happy right now, change it. And I just made a post on my social media yesterday. I post quite funny stuff on my social media. I'm a big kid. And I said, if you want things to change, you have to change things. And it's a remake of something that Dr. Wayne Dyer said. If you want things to change, you have to change things. And people go, what?
Yeah.
And there's a fun meme, you might have seen it, Katie. It says, who wants change? Put your hand up. And everyone puts the hand up. And then it says, who wants to change? And then no one puts the hand up.
That's it. Everyone's waiting for somebody else to save them, basically.
Pretty much.
So, Luke, this is a Energy of Money series, and because of your background in the large amounts of money that you've dealt with as well, and because of the spiritual tools that you've created, I wanted to ask you some questions that were a bit different from your usual money series. So, are you ready? Luke, Luke, what inspired you to combine spirituality and entrepreneurship in your work?
I've always been into business. I knew even when I was a little kid, I was 5 years old, and someone asked me what did I want to be, and I said a millionaire. I was at 5 years old. I knew it, and I studied people like Richard Branson and Alan Sugar and these entrepreneurs, and I knew that that was a way. And I'm from a small seaside town where there's a lot of drugs and violence, and it's quite intense. I knew I didn't want to be that. So entrepreneurship was always a part of it. But I was actually an atheist. Thought I didn't believe in anything. I even used to make fun of anyone who was religious. I used to enjoy getting into those debates with them. And then in 2016, I had this huge awakening. I got this connection to this, I call it the energy that creates everything. Whatever name you give that, whether you call it God or Allah or Buddha or Krishna or whatever it is that you call the energy that turns an apple seed into an apple tree and makes an apple tree make apples every year, whatever that is. I got this connection to that, to this unity consciousness. It opened my heart. I was crying and shaking, and I just realized that there's just one thing and we're all a part of that one thing. And when I realized that, it set me on a path, and I started being able to get these visions really clear, just like movies, just like you're in a movie scene, like a trailer. And some people call this clairvoyance. It's an aspect of clairvoyance. And it showed me this movie. I was on stage in front of about 7,000 people. It was a big conference, kind of Tony Robbins style conference. And I asked if anyone in the audience had anything they wanted to heal. And someone put their hand up and they said, yeah, I've got cancer. I'd love to heal it. And in this vision, I came down off the stage. It's called an intervention in public speaking. You come down off the stage, took their hand, and they were healed instantly. And then the cosmos, spirit, whatever you like to call it, my highest self said, is this a timeline you would like to align with? It was the best movie trailer I'd ever seen. I was like, yes, let's do that. That sounds great. And when you say a big yes to these things, whatever your big vision is, if you haven't had a vision yet, maybe you can just tap in right now and just ask to be shown the grandest version of the greatest vision of what's possible for you. Just allow yourself to go there and see what comes up. What is the greatest vision you've got for yourself? Plug that into your GPS system, like on a map on your phone, your quantum GPS, we call it. And the cosmos will line up the teachers and the people and the resources and everything. So these amazing healers started coming, Katie, that were like 30 years they'd been doing this stuff. And they would come and teach me. And it's such a cool time to be alive, because you can learn, if you do someone's 3-month program, you can learn about 90 or 95% of what they've learned in 30 years. And so it's phenomenal. And I've just been so gifted with these amazing teachers, and new ones come all the time. And we all help each other. I just messaged Katie the other day, because I've got a podcast and I want to get it more out there. And I said, Katie, how can I get my podcast to be like yours? You know, so popular. And so we all have different pieces of the medicine, right? And we all get drawn to the people who we're supposed to work with. There's a saying that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I found that to be true. You have to be ready, otherwise we can't even receive the teachings.
Yeah.
So for me, spirituality and entrepreneurship, they're one and the same. It's all a part of the same thing. And some people don't resonate with the word spiritual and some people do. But for me, everything is energy. And if you really are putting love and energy into the things you're creating, it shows. People really feel you. And especially now, people care a lot more about why you do things than what you really do. They want to feel you. They want to know that you're genuine and authentic. So for any of you who are feeling to step into the entrepreneurship path, or for any of you that are stepping into the spiritual path, put your heart into it. Be fully with it, whatever the thing is that you do, and you'll have an amazing life. And if you're half-arsing things, if you're only putting half of yourself in, you're probably not going to be living the most joyful life that you can.
Thank you for sharing that, Luke. What are your hopes or visions for the future of spiritual entrepreneurship and the energy of money in the collective consciousness?
I've seen some amazing visions of the future, Katie.
Come on, you can share them here. Don't be shy.
And it's all possible. The future is an interesting word because in quantum physics, which is a Q-RIT quantum regression therapy, is all about quantum physics. So in quantum physics, time doesn't exist in the way that we think it does. Time is something that humans made up. This idea of seconds, minutes, hours, days, it's just made up, right? So in quantum physics, everything's happening now, it's just in a different place. So when I see these different visions, I call them alternate timelines or potential timelines. So I've seen that there is a timeline where the majority of humans are thriving, 51% or more are thriving. At the moment, most humans are in survival mode. They're thinking about their next paycheck. Can they put food on the table? Can they pay their rent? Can they pay their heating? And it's really crazy that that is the way our system is set up now. And some people believe that it's set up that way by design to keep us trapped and stuck. Maybe you've got your own views on that. Let us know in the comments. So why would people not want humans to thrive? Well, when you're safe, when all your needs are met, you then have this power to be creative, to do more self-development, to work on yourself, to upgrade yourself, to change the world. And some people who are in power supposedly don't want that. But the way the world is now with technology, with podcasts and making video courses and all of this stuff that we can do, it's so easy now to create something that you can sell and create passive income streams, extra income streams. So this 51% of people thriving, if you can just imagine everyone who's tuning in, what that version of the world will look like. What would you do with your time if you didn't have to work? And what if, instead of even calling it work, what if your work was joyful? What if your work was creating? So Katie creates podcasts and Katie creates books, and like, this is fun for me. I love doing this kind of stuff. Book writing for me was a bit more challenging. There were some joyful moments and some really challenging moments.
Some people think as well about writing a book that they have to be a good writer, but you don't really, because as long as you can share a story, someone else can take over the writing part when you've got editors in the team to help with that. So it doesn't have to be as difficult as a lot of people think it is.
Yeah, I found that too. Getting the right editor.
Yeah.
I had a challenge with an editor one time and it set me back a while. So finding the right team, finding the right support, this is a big part of thriving. At the moment, we're in this separation consciousness, the majority of people think we have to do everything by ourselves. And it's not the optimal way. If you are working in your business right now and you are your own accountant, customer service team, marketing team, graphic designer, website builder, that's not going to be the most effective way. And probably you're doing a lot of things that aren't even your highest skill set. So finding the right team. And I love looking at tribes. Tribes, for me, living in conscious communities, that's a big part of the vision, because you're self-sustaining. You can grow your own food, live close to the land, and be with like minds and like hearts. And if we lived in a tribe, Katie, and you're the person who can help people publish their books and help people get their podcasts successful, everyone would just come to you and you would just help everyone with that. And other people would do the cooking and other people would do the farming, and you wouldn't have to do that because there's other people in the tribe who would do all of that. So to come back to your question, for me, thriving is being able to spend your time doing the things that you love, and doing things because you choose them, not because you have to do them. So that's what we can create really quickly. And when I see that, not everyone's going to go for that. Some people will still stay in separation consciousness, and that's totally cool as well. For me, it said in the vision, the majority of people will be living in that unity consciousness. We'll all just help each other. And that is a vision I welcome coming to fruition really soon.
Thanks for sharing that beautiful vision. I hope to be part of it and see it come to fruition.
There's so many of us building communities now.
Yeah.
One of my friends in Costa Rica, he just bought another 50-acre plot of land. He already has one community. He's looking for people to come and live there. And we want to do this with Q-RIT as well. So we have our online tribe. And the idea is then we can actually live physically together in person, actually create a Q-RIT village. So we have a project in Mexico. We bought some land 2 years ago. We've got 30 families and we're all making a go of living together. Growing our own food. The first houses are almost finished. And then we just figure out how to live together. It's apparently not the easiest thing to do. It depends on the people. And I know some friends who bought land in Scotland. They started a community and they couldn't live together. So there's a big piece, isn't there, around conscious communication. How do you handle conflicts? What do you do when people have opposing views? And this is a big part of the social media game for me.
Well, this is why it's difficult in workplaces as well. I know other people around me that are still in that environment, and most of the time it is all about perspectives and communication breakdowns. That people just struggle to work together. So it's a big piece that the whole of society could change.
We're encouraging them to. One heart at a time, one mind at a time. Also working on the system change, because there's two pieces to that. We can work at the level of the individual, and we can also build new systems that make these old systems obsolete, because a lot of the old systems on the planet, food production, education, healthcare, they're not designed to actually help people thrive. So thank you to everyone who's listening, who is working on projects to transform this world. Like, we can try and change things so quickly when we work together.
Absolutely. Luke, how do you navigate the balance between serving others and valuing your own worth when it comes to pricing your offers?
I'm quite uniquely positioned to help people with this, because my upbringing was my mum and dad split up when I was 1 year old. My mum raised me and my brother on government benefits, and so we didn't have a lot of money. We're very blessed in the UK to actually have a government that give us some kind of benefits. Not everybody has that in other countries. And so growing up, we were made fun of for the way that we lived. And that fueled me to then go and be successful and to go and actually create this wealth in a different kind of way. So I worked my way up the corporate ladder, and then I was making more money than anyone I knew. And then when I became a sales director, it's a very interesting thing, because even when you're making £10,000 a month, if you're not happy, it's not worth it. And I hope everyone gets to have that experience of making all the money that you want. And you'll see that if you're doing things that don't align with your soul, with your highest truth, it doesn't work. And it's insane to me, going and sitting on a spreadsheet, doing this mundane work, even though I was so well paid. So when I got the opportunity to become a public speaker, start helping people, mentoring people, guiding people, I absolutely love it. 7 years in now, helped hundreds and hundreds of people, one-on-one. I love it. My client sessions are one of my favorite things to do. Now, coming from that corporate background, it made no sense to me to start charging £30 for a session or £40 for a session, because it was impossible for me to match my lifestyle that I was used to. And in corporates, people are used to paying £400 for a thing, £1,000 for a consultant for half a day. That's just normal in the world I worked in. I worked for a big software company, so we worked with people like Deloitte, and those kind of big, huge companies where £1,000 for a day was just normal. So when I started my business, I already had that. Not everybody does. Some people work up from like £20 to £50, and then they feel bad charging £100. But here's what I say to my students and my clients. Everyone who's tuning in, figure out, how much would you like to make per month to have a really good lifestyle? How much would you love to make per month to have a really good lifestyle? And just write that number down, whatever it is. Some people it's 2,000, some people it's 10,000, some people it's 100,000. It can be whatever your truth is. So now, if you're a consultant, if you do client sessions, think about how many sessions can you actually do in a month? How many would you love to do in a month? And then write that number down. And now you're going to divide the top number by the bottom number. And people are shocked because the way most people set up their businesses, Katie, is not sustainable. If they're charging £50 a session, even if they do 200 sessions in a year, they only make £10,000. And most people don't know how to sell 200 sessions. So I teach people instead of going with being price led like that, go with what works for you so you can create the lifestyle that you want. Now, if you do want to build your own house, you need to be making more than 10,000 a month. You can't really build a really nice house making 10,000 a month unless you start getting mortgages from banks, and that's a whole mess. The whole debt system is a massive scam.
Yeah,
And
I just put my house up for sale.
Okay.
Finally, I've let go.
Yeah, go check out the mortgage scam. It's a real crazy thing. And so really, if you want to be building communities and having money for your projects, I think people need to be looking at 6 figures a month. Really, is like a good level to have actual freedom. And their business models are just not aligned for that. So this is where creating things like online courses is really good, where it's passive, where you can make money while you sleep. So people buy my courses while I'm in bed. I wake up and you see people have bought your course. And I know you have books, right? Books are a great way. People can buy your book while you're asleep. And we're not taught about this stuff in school. Again, for some reason, Katie, I wonder why.
Well, I went to school a long time ago, so and my son is a school teacher.
Okay.
But he's got me as a mum.
Okay. One of my mentees, she was 10 years old when we started working together, and she told her school career counselor, I want to be a YouTuber. And they said, no, you can't. But there's these 2 YouTube kids called Vlad and Nikki. They made $70 million last year on YouTube. $70 million. There's a guy called Ryan. He was 7 years old. He made $22 million. A 7-year-old YouTuber. And there's like so much potential. And now Ryan he's got a toy contract with Walmart. He does all of this stuff, and whatever it is that you love, you could build a following around, you could build a tribe around if you're brave enough. And there's things to learn, isn't there? I mean, maybe go to Katie, she'll teach you how to get yourself out there, or come join our Q-RIT tribe. And a lot of people have this belief that they should charge what people can afford.
Yeah. And I've been caught up in that. I ran a charity for 7 years.
Yeah.
Caught up in the trying to fix everything for everybody. And
yeah,
while I struggled seriously, and that's why I closed it in the end. It was just too much. I couldn't handle it. So yeah, I've been there. And then I used to have an e-commerce shop on eBay that did quite well for a while, until I then had to go back to the real world when I divorced and had to take over the mortgage. So I had to go back to work because I hated it. But what I noticed was everyone competing against each other, undercutting each other all the time. And why are we like that in society? Why is it so cutthroat when it could be flipped the other way?
Yeah. Most people just want to help, especially healers and people on this kind of a path.
Yeah.
Help. And so they look at the people who are next to them. And for them, £40 or £50 is still a stretch for them to book a massage or something. So they're pricing themselves for those kind of people. And I just say, are they your actual ideal clients? And I help people to build their businesses. We call it building a quantum business. So we hack things. We use the quantum field, and we use these quantum mechanic principles instead of doing things the slow way, the old school way. So someone came to me recently and they said, oh, I'd love to help people who have anxiety. I'm like, amazing. I said, are you sure though you want to spend all day with anxious people? Like, is that what your highest truth is for all your clients every day, to be in anxiety? Because that's a really intense path. If that is your truth, amazing. But is that the clients you really want to play with? Because whoever you spend the most time with, that's what you become like, right?
I can share as well that running that charity, I became physically disabled and very sick.
Yeah. There's a piece that I had as well, which was trying to save the world, thinking you have to save the world. And it's cool, but it was exhausting. And I learned you can't help people who don't want to be helped, but put things in place for those people. So I have courses at all price levels, even free. So anyone who's tuning in, if you want to, you can grab a completely free Q-RIT session. Maybe Katie can post a link. Just download it. I recorded it. It's powerful. You can put any aspect of your life in there, whatever it is you want to work on, addictions or fears or phobias or aches, pains, illnesses. And that's a free offering. Anyone can do it. And then I have different courses at different levels, and people can come and join my one-on-one mentorship. I'm very selective with who I let into that space, because if they're not someone I want to play with, I won't play with them. And my work is play. It has to be fun for me. That's where I'm at. I will still help people occasionally who are in distress if they really need it, but it's not my ideal. It's not who I want to spend all of my time with. But if a friend is deep in depression, I do help people a lot with depression. That's actually quite an easy one to shift. People who are depressed, usually they're not living in alignment with their highest values, and so they feel awful. And we just have to figure out what needs to change in your life. And it sounds really simple, and it often is. Usually it's their environment needs to change, or maybe their job, or maybe their career, maybe their family life. They've got relationships, they've got trauma, and we just shift that. So if you are doing a business right now that you don't love, and you're doing it for some reason, like you're trying to save people, or you're trying to help these people who maybe don't even want to be helped right now, I would say, can you look at structuring your business, your life in a different way, where your tank is filled up, where you have all the abundance, because then you're overflowing. And then you can create charity projects for people. And then you can, like I do, so I have my tiered services. So a lot of my offerings can come for those people who are not quite living in joy yet. And they can come through, do my online courses, and then when they're ready to come and play, they're already activated to a certain level. But I do have people as well, if someone is in deep distress, I can just send them to them. So in a community, there will be people who want to be carers, for example. I just spoke to someone recently, they're a carer for severely disabled people. That's an intense path, but they love it. Everybody loves different things. It goes back to the tribe thing we were talking about. There are people who want to help those kind of people, and there are people who want to be there for the people who have serious mental health issues, and there are people who want to run ecstatic dances, and there's people who want to do cacao ceremonies, and whatever it is that you would love to do and you feel excited about, that's what I would say have as the core of what you're doing, and then have these other projects and other collaborations.
Beautiful. Do you want to share a bit about Q-RIT, Luke, just so that our listeners know what we're talking about? Because I'm somebody who's been on a long journey, probably about a decade, probably a person who's collected serial certifications. But when I found Q-RIT, I was amazed at the level that you go to in these sessions, the integration in these sessions, the depth of them, and how you'd brought all of these tools in together. I loved it. And also, for me, something that was a bit of a breakthrough for me last year was going into past life regressions, and the very fact that it was quantum regression integrated therapy was hit me in the soul. I knew that this was something that could really, really help people, not just temporarily, but there was something more to this.
Yeah, I've done the same as you, Katie. Done so many courses, tried everything just to find a way. That's one of my great strengths, and probably everyone who's listening, you're like this too. There's no way you're going to give up, right? You're going to find a way, whatever the thing is that's happening in your life. Most people, though, they don't change until things get so bad. We call it rock bottom, and then they have to change. And they're on their knees, crying out to the cosmos, and then they make the change and try and shake people. I say, don't wait until you hit rock bottom.
No.
Come, just book a session, just come do the course. And I've had a really varied life. I was sent to a psychiatric institution when I was 10 years old. So mental health challenges were prevalent in my family. One of my close family members was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. So that was a big part of my upbringing. People suicidal, chronically depressed, all of the things, and most of them medicated, right? Because that's the conventional healthcare way to deal with it. So I was sent to a psychiatric institution for 6 weeks for assessment. And at the end of the 6 weeks, they basically told me I was just a really intelligent child who had trauma from my upbringing, and no one had helped me with it. So I was expressing it as anger. And I had conventional therapy for a long time. Didn't work for me. And one of the issues was I couldn't be honest with my therapist. I had to pretend, because if I told them, oh yeah, I had a dream last night which was really dark, they would keep me in the institution. I said, oh yeah, I had a dream where I wanted to hurt someone. They would just keep me in the institution. So I just pretended, oh yeah, I'm feeling a lot better. And they say, have you had any scary thoughts? I'm like, no, I feel great. And it's just nonsense, just lying. That all changed when I started to meet people who were genuine space holders, healers, activators. And one of the big pieces for me was learning about shamanism. So I met this amazing shaman. And shamans are just medicine people, medicine men, medicine women. There's loads of different names for them. But again, if you lived in a tribe and you go to the medicine person, you have to be honest with them. If you've got deep-rooted anger, be honest about it. If you're grieving, be honest about it. If you're having suicidal thoughts, be honest about it. And that level of honesty is not welcomed in a lot of conventional practices, because for insurance purposes, if you tell them you're going to hurt yourself or thinking about hurting yourself or thinking about hurting someone else, they have to report you. That's the way that the conventional psychotherapy systems created. Shamans don't have to worry about that. So it's a really beautiful thing. And what I found was, wow, I can actually tell people how I actually feel. Now we can do that with our friends if they're able to hold us. Maybe you have that relationship with some people, but to be able to do that in therapy is so key. So I loved that. I ended up even living with a shaman for 18 months. That was a fascinating thing. Me and my wife, we lived in London and we needed somewhere to live. So we were looking around and we've moved into an apartment, and the guy who we lived with was a shaman.
Wow.
It was phenomenal. So we did hundreds of ceremonies of all different kinds, and took me to the depths of despair and to the highest of the highs. And it's a really amazing thing to be able to play with that. And my quantum regression teacher, so the one who taught me this modality, I trained with him for 2 years, and he just made me cry over and over and over. Do you know those real snotty cries, Katie? Those real juicy ones?
We really need to have, yeah.
It was fascinating because I was at an event. It was a conscious relationships event. I knew I needed to be better in relationships because I historically had not had very good relationships. And this guy came up to me and he said, were you abandoned when you were a child? I said, yeah. He said, there's something about a hospital. I said, yeah, I was sent away to a psychiatric institution. He said, you need to work on that. And then he just walked off. I was atheist at this point, right? I didn't believe in any of that stuff. I didn't believe in psychics, mediums. I didn't believe in any of it. I thought it was all nonsense. And I go up to him and I'm like, how could you possibly know that? Like, nobody knows that. I don't even tell that to my friends, even my girlfriend. Like, no one knows that. He said, well, I could see this abandonment energy in your field. So I connected to it and I followed it. He calls it following the thread. I followed the thread back to, and I saw this image of you at this hospital. And I was just blown away. You imagine whatever your traumas are, they're in your energy field right now. Whatever you're thinking about, it's in your energy field right now. People who are sensitive to that stuff, if you're always thinking about manifesting a red Ferrari and you meet someone who's sensitive, they can come up to you and be like, think about red Ferraris a lot. You can literally see it in your energy field.
Let me share something. I was doing some visualizations before Alan got this house. It had come up, I'd seen it, I'd wanted it, and it disappeared because he wasn't even with me at the time. He was just not there. And then it came up again, and I started visualizing it every day. And I started visualizing a sold sign on my house that I decided to put for sale. And the person who cuts the dog's hair told him that she saw the sold sign in front of my house. It's like, I saw it. I thought it was sold. No, she's tapping into my visualizations.
Absolutely. The lines between reality and dreams and what you visualize, and especially if you start playing multidimensionally, if you do activate these gifts and you start living a more quantum life. In Q-RIT we have level 1, which is the foundational level, and then we have level 2. In level 2 we have a module called quantum embodiment. So it's where you become a master of these quantum principles. It can become quite challenging to know the difference, because you meet someone and you can pick things up from them, like intuitively, energetically, telepathically. A lot of people have that. They think of someone and they call them straight away. That happens to a lot of people. You can train this. It's like you have to train your superhero powers. And so there are things my wife will dream about, and she can't tell the difference between the dreams and the reality. And then she shouts at me and tells me off. And we call him Dream Luke, and he gets me into a lot of trouble. So I'm like, no, babe, that wasn't me. That was Dream Luke. And so it gets really fun to start to play with. And if you do embrace the idea, and you don't have to believe anything for Q-RIT, it's a totally universal principle. You don't have to believe any particular belief system. But
That's another thing I loved about this, because most things are targeting maybe spiritual people, but you don't have to be.
No.
So I do love this because it's universal.
I was told to create it that way.
Feel that, yeah.
Yeah, I was told to create it that way because when I learned Reiki, for example, Reiki was beautiful, but it was really entwined with this idea that you had to believe this stuff about the Dr. Yusui, and I learned one called Angelic Reiki, and you kind of had to believe in angels, and there's some different pieces to it which I was happy to play with, but they would put other people off.
Yeah.
And there's a meditation technique called Vipassana, which is a beautiful meditation technique, and it's a universal technique. People from every faith, every religion, every background can embrace this technique. It doesn't contradict what's in their religions and things. That's the same way with Q-RIT. Whatever your existing belief systems are, great. Come and plug in and then see how it fits in with what you're doing. And so let's go back to this guy who came up to me and told me I needed to work on this trauma. It shook me. And I said, well, how can we do that? He said, well, we can book a block of 12 sessions, and each session will dive into a different aspect of your childhood, and we'll reprogram it. He told me you can reprogram your mind, you can reprogram your nervous system. It's really easy to do. He said, but most people don't know how. He said, we can work on your ancestral trauma, we can change things for your family. And so I said, yes, just a massive yes, booked on his course. And it was the most phenomenal experience, totally different to any therapy I'd ever had. And then I said to him, can you teach me how to do this? And he'd never taught anyone before. And I asked him if I could be his apprentice, and I basically became his apprentice. And he taught me this modality, which is a huge part of what Q-RIT is, like the foundation of it. What I also then did is I learned hypnotherapy. So it brings in quantum hypnotherapy. I learned theta healing. I learned past life regressions. I learned different shamanic trainings as well, and Reiki, and all these different things. And so it combines the best bits from all these different modalities with the quantum regression. And one of the most important things is it's called quantum regression and integration therapy. when I channeled it, it told me, I was just writing. I do this automatic writing. So I was doing this automatic writing. You just get into the state, into the quantum state, and you just let your hand start writing, and magic happens. That's how I actually wrote my first book. Just where fingers just type themselves.
That's how we write in our community as well.
Yeah, and then you read it back and you're blown away.
Did I write that?
Yeah, I sent a chapter to my friend and he was like, "Did you write that?" I said, "Well, kind of." And it's fun, isn't it? Because you just get out of your head. You're letting this energy that turns an apple seed into an apple tree flow through you, and then the magic comes. And you do have to have some discernment, I would say, with what you're channeling. So that's one of the things that we teach, how to be a clear vessel. I always ask to be used as a vessel for the highest good. And I know how to do that. I know what that feels like, and that's the place I channel from. And so it told me to create this modality called Q-RIT, and it said whatever's happening in your life, we can cure it with Q-RIT, Q-RIT, Q-RIT. And I thought, that's amazing. I love a good slogan. But the important piece in it, or one of the most, was quantum regression and integration therapy, because that was missing in every course I'd ever done. In my hypnotherapy training, you learn it and then you're just left to your own devices. There's no integration, there's no community, there's no tribe. My Reiki courses, it's the same. Here's a whole load of tools, now go. Even when you do the Reiki Masters training, so we get a lot of master healers who come and do our program. We did a survey, 65% of people in our tribe are master healers. They've done 4 or more modalities. You learn your Reiki Masters and then you just, off you go. You don't get taught how to teach. You don't get taught how to be a good space holder. You don't get taught any of this stuff, and there's no support system for most of them. So you're kind of like lost and left on your own to go and figure it out. We're the total opposite to that. So we have a community around the course, around the training. So you do get your certification, you become a practitioner, you can then do it for your clients. But you have a tribe. And it's an online tribe right now, but like I said, we want to make this an actual in-person tribe someday where we can all live together. We're learning with our Mexico project how to build community, and we'll hopefully be able to do this again. Or maybe we'll all just go live in this Costa Rica tribe, who knows? And having some people who you can talk to openly and honestly about your experiences is a game changer. Because you can think you're going crazy when you have a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And even the most connected and conscious people I know, and this is myself included, sometimes we have really tough days. The world we live in right now, I call it an insane asylum. I call it clown world. So much of what you see, if you ever do switch on the news, which I don't really recommend, but if you do decide you want to watch the mainstream media, it is an insane asylum out there in lots of ways. There's so much beauty in the world, but they don't show that. And so I can get very upset sometimes, and having a support system where you can be honest with is just mega. So anyone who joins Q-RIT, the level 1, you can have as many sessions with the other practitioners as you want. So you basically never have to pay for therapy again. And this is a way that we can all then up-level ourselves, so we are then able to go and up-level other people in our clients and our communities and build our businesses from that.
Focus on the creation instead of having to be caught in the constant shadow work, which is where a lot of people stay stuck as well.
It's because the tools that they use for the shadow work are just really slow. And that's okay sometimes. Sometimes slow is good. I use yoga as an example. You can go and do 50 yoga classes, and you might help your nervous system, and you might get some good breakthroughs, and you might become stronger physically and more flexible and build your discipline, which is fantastic. But will it get you to go to the root cause of your beliefs? Possibly. If you're practicing actual yoga, which is not just the postures, right? That's just one tiny part of yoga. I studied yoga in India, and there's 4 different aspects of yoga. So I teach something called Bhakti Yoga, which is mystical devotion, which is about being love. And that's another. Yoga means to unite. It's a path of union. And so I find a lot of people, they're just doing these practices, but they're not quite getting to the core. And in Q-RIT, you just go straight to the core. That's what you do. If you go and see a shaman, it's no nonsense. It's kind of like having surgery, right? It's no nonsense. They just go and they help you clear the thing and you get the breakthrough and then you can change your life. That's what hypnotherapy does. Hypnotherapy is one of the most powerful tools. You can take someone, their biggest fear, gone in 15 minutes, totally gone. Any good hypnotherapist can do that. Totally gone. Childhood trauma, 30 minutes, totally gone. Someone just did a session on me, so I get sessions on myself all the time. And it was a 30-minute session and they helped me clear a huge trauma. It's like phenomenal what is possible when you work at this quantum level, this energy level. So if any of you are curious about it, like I said, come jump in.
Yeah, I'll put some links in my show notes as well.
Try the free session and see how you like it. Katie will drop all the links. And you don't have to suffer. You don't have to stay stuck in your story. If you're depressed right now, if you're anxious right now, you can change that really quickly. There's a testimonial on my YouTube channel. If you type in Luke Scott anxiety testimonial, you'll find it. One of our Q-RIT practitioners, Reiki master, came and learned Q-RIT, and they worked with this 8-year-old girl. She had crippling anxiety. In one session, they completely got rid of her anxiety. And it's about going to the root cause of why it's there. If you've got money issues right now, go to the root cause of why it's there. And when I say issues, by the way, even if you're a 7-figure entrepreneur, one of my Facebook friends, he teaches people how to go from 7 figures to 8 figures. And he's like, if you want to get to 8 figures, you have to clear all of the blocks that are keeping you at 7 figures. It's always next level. It doesn't matter if you're at 5 figures now and you want to go to 6. There's some stuff to be cleared. That's to work through and activated and upgraded. And so go and do this work, and it just makes things so much easier. But having the right tools, and I do a combination personally of more somatic practices. I use breath work a lot. I do yoga, I do meditation, and I do Q-RIT and hypnotherapy and shamanic ceremonies. And it's a really beautiful way to be when you have all these different tools in your toolkit. So if any of you are feeling stuck right now, come try Q-RIT, see how it feels. Or my other recommendations, if you don't vibe with Q-RIT, which is totally cool, hypnotherapy is amazing, but particularly quantum hypnotherapy and theta healing, very, very powerful. Or go and find a shaman that you trust and ask them to help you. Those 3 things for me, and meditation. Learn meditation, deep meditation, life transformers. But go and get in a good environment. Go and be surrounded by the people with the bright eyes, with the open hearts and the open minds. Go find the people who love life, and they will help lift you up, because some days you'll have a down day and they'll have an up day, and we all support each other. And at the moment, most people live so isolated, Katie. We're in houses by ourselves. We don't really have tribe. Most people don't even talk to their neighbors, and it's lonely. And I don't think it's the optimal way for humans to live.
Thank you, Luke. You answered my next question, which I would have fully expected. Can you provide any insights on how to tap into one's intuition and inner guidance when making financial decisions as a spiritual entrepreneur?
Intuition's so fun. I follow this system called human design. I've been doing it for 7 years now. And in human design, it teaches that we all have different superpowers. Every human is unique. And a lot of people say, trust your intuition. But human design actually teaches that that is not true for everyone.
Oh.
So different people have different ways to make decisions. And some people's intuition actually is the worst way for them to make decisions. It gets them in a lot of trouble. But the people who have good intuition will write a book telling you to follow your intuition because that works for them. And some people say, follow your gut. It's like a bodily sensation. So in my human design, my intuition is my biggest superpower. They call it splenic, my splenic center. Other people, it's their sacral center. It's an actual bodily feeling. And so following intuition can be amazing, but it might mean a different thing to you than to other people. Some people make their best decisions by speaking things out. And there's different ways in human design to figure it out. So you might want to go and get a reading. I do offer that as well. If
I've been down a couple of rabbit holes with human design, and it left me a bit confused because I went along the mainstream, but then I found someone else who did the sidereal human design,
Yeah.
which I came out similar, but my open spaces were completely different. And then I was frozen. Okay, I don't know which one.
The sidereal time is a whole trip if you haven't been down there, everyone. It's Sidereal.
Yeah.
Sidereal time is this galactic time instead of the the system we all use now, or most people, this Gregorian calendar. Was made in the 1500s by the church and it was widely adopted in the 1750s, but different cultures have different calendars. I don't think the Gregorian calendar is the optimal one, so sidereal time is an interesting thing to me. And yet, what I take away from human design, it's a piece of the puzzle. It's a tool. It's something to play with. Don't have to make it your whole life. Don't have to live by what a book tells you to be.
No.
You can be inspired by what a book tells you to be, but maybe your unique expression is going to be a bit different to that. So I have found that a lot of what human design teaches resonates with me. And I say that about all of the teachings every time I speak or share. Take the parts that resonate with you.
Absolutely.
The parts that don't, maybe they're not for you right now, and that's totally cool. Maybe you'll come back in 6 months and they will be for you, or maybe they're just never for you. And celebrating our uniqueness is a big piece of this game. So most people in the school system that we have now have their intuition beaten out of them. You're told not to daydream, come back to earth, take your head out of the clouds, all of this stuff, right? Use your logic mind, and it's a trap. It's a massive trap. Our brains are beautiful. Logic is beautiful. It's not the only way to play in the world. And there's a great institute called the Institute of Heart Math.
Oh, yeah.
They've been for decades now studying the human heart, and they put all brain scanners on you and they track all of your metrics. And what they found is the human heart has these things called sensory neurites, 40,000 sensory neurites. They think, learn, and act independently of each other, like the neurons in your brain. And they have perfect memory recall. And so if you are coming from that wisdom of this heart brain, instead of just your head brain, you can create a neural network between your brain and your heart and your gut, because your gut has its own neural network too. So you can then live from this place of deeper wisdom. But in order to do that, you need to be present. If you're in your head, if you're thinking about the past all the time, if you're thinking about the future all the time, you're not going to be able to tap into this wisdom. And a lot of people get the breakthrough, Katie, when they're in the shower. You know, they're washing their hair. There's no mind. This is the thing. No mind. And they get an idea that drops in, but they don't write it down.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about it. And then a year later, they see someone else has created that idea, and they're like, I should have done that. To get used to writing down your ideas when they come in. For me, it's when I'm driving a lot. When I'm driving, your subconscious mind is wide open, and I get the most amazing things come through. This is why meditation is so important. Create space for this wisdom from the quantum field, from this intelligence to come in. For me, it happens a lot at 3:30 in the morning. So I wake up at 3:30. I always have a notepad next to my bed, and I'll just wake up and my hand will start writing. And this is one of the things that happened with Q-RIT. It called it the $1 billion plan. And it told me how to turn Q-RIT into a $1 billion business in the next 5 years. And I just was letting it write. It's fantastic. And then you read it back, like we said. And every single one of you, please go and take this, build a $1 billion business. Because if you, the people with the big hearts and the kind ones, have this level of wealth, you'll just help people. So it said, if you can get 1 million people to become Q-RIT practitioners, so there are roughly about 4 million Reiki practitioners in the world right now.
Yeah, I've heard that there are more than there are nurses in the UK.
Yeah, it's like 4 million Reiki practitioners as far as I know. I don't know exactly how many hypnotherapists there are, NLP practitioners, all the other modalities that exist in the world, but there's millions and millions. So getting 1 million people to do this modality is possible. You say if you can get 1 million people to do Q-RIT, you will have a $1 billion business. And it laid it out for me, the different stages. So we have our level 1 of the course, and then the percentage of people that will come to level 2 and the percentage of people that will become master practitioners, because master practitioners, it's similar to Reiki masters, they can then teach other people. So it laid it all out for me step by step by step. And then again, you can ask questions when you're in this state. Call it the quantum state. So you can ask questions. Okay, so how do I do this? How do I do my marketing? And just write the answers down. This is making a quantum business plan. It's not from the head, it's from the field. And so I got this whole business plan. So if any of you are thinking about creating some kind of information products, if it's a course, if it's a book or something like that, you can all do that. And then find the right people to help you with the marketing, find the right systems. You don't have to do everything by yourself. I think this is a massive way we can free someone. So one of my students, I gave him this idea. He said, just do a Zoom like this, share your best content and record it. Just record a Zoom. Now package that up as a course and sell it. That's it. People make it so complicated, right?
I know, because I've been putting this off for a long time. It's ridiculous.
Make it so complicated, Katie. Right? If you're good at gardening,
Yeah.
get your phone out, set it up on a tripod, and just teach people what you know. Make that into a course. And Q-RIT the first time was a one-day event that we did in person. I had my phone on a tripod and we filmed it. And then we edited it and made it look really nice. And then that was a course that you can then sell. So he just did it on a Zoom, right? You can get your Zoom to look pretty good quality quite easily, good audio. And that was in January. He created a community. You can make a group. So you can make a Facebook group or a WhatsApp group or a Telegram group. And he's selling that course for $200. And it was amazing. He's now sold over 600 of them this year. And that made him over $120,000.
Wow.
From a Zoom he recorded.
There you go.
Don't make it so
Takes us 30 minutes it could take you to do that. My final question as well is quite connected to this. So how could someone clear a money block or money wounds if that's what they feel that they've got going on with Q-RIT?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. You can do anything with Q-RIT because the regression part is going to the root cause of why the thing shows up. So I did this course called the Millionaire Mind Intensive. It's this big event in London based on T. Harv Eker's teachings, and they teach about these 4 different money types. So they say some people who have money issues, it's because they're spenders. They always spend everything. Other people are savers, but they're so tight with their money, it causes them tension. They're scared to lose it. Other people are avoiders. They just avoid it. They totally, they just bury the bills. They never look at it. They never open the letters. And other people are money monks. They think money isn't important. And so all of those 4 archetypes can cause different problems for different reasons. So if you can identify what you believe your blockage is, get a Q-RIT session and go to the root cause of why that thing shows up. So I did a client session recently, and what came up was we saw that in her ancestral line, because information from your ancestors is passed down through your DNA, becomes a part of you. One of her ancestors actually made a lot of money, and they were robbed and killed for having a lot of money. So that's then passed down in her genetics that it's not safe to have a lot of money because something bad might happen. So you can see how subconsciously then you're just going to sabotage yourself anytime you get a lot of money. You'll just spend it or waste it or lose it or something. So we go and we clear it, cure it at the root, and then it goes forever. And it's very easy to do this when you're in, it's called the theta brainwave state. It's a very slow brainwave state. This is what hypnotherapists get you to do, or in theta healing, and this is what we do in Q-RIT. We call it the quantum state. It's a little bit different, but it's similar. So we go and we reprogram that. We clear it from her cells, because you have to clear it at the cellular level, you have to clear it at the DNA level, and across all the dimensions, all different timelines. Now, what is the gift in the situation? Here's the magic. Everything that's showing up in your life, I believe, is a gift. Everything. And that's difficult for some people to hold, especially if you've had intense trauma. And I have had some real challenging traumas. And I don't by any means need you to accept this as your truth, but this is where I am at. I use my wife as an example. My wife suffered abuse when she was a child, the worst kind of abuse that you can have. And when I met her, she had PTSD and she was having panic attacks and night terrors, and it was a real intense thing. She had years of conventional therapy and they just taught her coping mechanisms. They don't actually cure it. Now, 8 years later, she has no PTSD, no night terrors, no panic attacks, completely healed, which they tell you you can't heal PTSD, right? You'll only ever cope with it. I don't believe that's true. Now, why would that level of abuse be a good thing? Or why could it be? What could the reasons be? My wife ended up becoming a consultant around mental health and ending child abuse and child violence. She ended up working in Parliament on bills to help reform schools. She ended up being a teacher at a conference with 300 teachers and head teachers, doing a training, teaching them how can you help children who are suffering from depression and anxiety and whatever other mental health issues. And she has that lived experience now, so people will listen to her. So at the deepest level, even though that was a horrible thing to happen to her, and I hope that that never happens to anyone, I hope we can create a world where people don't have to suffer like that. But if you have suffered through something, there's this idea that your story can become someone else's survival guide. And you go through those things, and maybe it takes you 20 years, and you can then teach it to someone in 20 days. Now that's phenomenal. So this client, back to the root cause, saw this ancestor who was very wealthy. Well, that means that in her DNA, she knows what it's like to build wealth. That's the benefit in this. So you can go and play with that, connect to that ancestor, bring that energy in now and see, okay, how did they do it? This is in my ancestral line, and that wasn't a part of her awareness before. So you can do that whether you are a saver. Savers, often it's an anxiety, they're scared, it's a thing they're doing because it makes them feel safe. So there's something to go and reprogram, a time in their childhood or in a different incarnation or in a different lifetime. If you believe in that, you don't have to believe in that, where they didn't feel safe and now this is a defense mechanism. If they're avoidant, they might have an avoidant attachment style, so you can go and you can reprogram that. If they're a money monk, again, you go into it, okay, so I'm not where I want to be right now. I'm not really happy with my current situation. Why do I have this particular belief system? Or why do I have this fear? Or why do I have this phobia? So it's really fun, Katie. It's super multidimensional. We never know where it will go, but in the free session that I talked about, you can just go and plug in whatever belief it is and clear it. And do let us know in the chat as well how that goes for you. The thing with Q-RIT and with other similar trainings like hypnotherapy and theta healing, they just get straight to the root. That's what I believe is missing in a lot of modalities. You leave and you feel really good, you have a nice massage and you feel really good, but does it really change your life? Do you actually get a breakthrough? Are you going to be different? And that's what I look for now. It's not that every single session is completely life affirming. Sometimes they're more subtle, but sometimes it is full breakthrough, full breakdown. And we always trust that people get exactly what they need. And as well, wherever you're at right now, you have a choice. You can tell your story in a way that empowers you or that disempowers you. You are the only person that tells your story. You're the only one. You're the only one who can change it. And that's your choice now. Even if you have suffered, I just spoke with a new client. They've joined our Q-RIT Masters program. She was in domestic abuse and real, story that just makes you cry. And some of the worst things that can happen to people. But now she goes and empowers others who are in that situation. Like, you can find the magic in your story. You can find the power in it. And if you choose to do that, what you'll find is anything that happens to you from now on, you can find the treasure in it. This was my big awakening in 2016. It told me everything happens for a reason. I saw why all the things in my life had to happen so I could be this person I am now, so people would listen to me. And this next chapter of your life, everyone, can be amazing. And I love that you're a publisher as well, Katie, and you help people with books. And I know you've got a book.
Well, it blended nicely with the stories on the podcast as well, didn't it? It's just perfect. And books, when I was a child, I was a small child, I could read by the time I started school. Books were my saving grace because there was a lot of domestic violence at home in my family. And I spent a lot of time in my bedroom with books and loved books. So I've come full circle.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I was such a book geek, and I also got lost in computers and music too. All different escape mechanisms, right? So you can just go off to your own reality, and yeah. So I love talking about life as a movie or as a game, as a book. So I talk a lot about the next chapter. What's the next chapter going to be in your story? Your next chapter, everyone, can be incredible. Will you still have some challenges? Well, probably, because most of the best books have ups and downs. There's a hero's journey. They overcome some obstacles. And there's an idea that will people go and watch a movie if nothing bad ever happens in the movie? If the whole movie is just nice.
And would you recognise the good if you didn't experience the bad? The light and the dark. You've got to experience it all, haven't you? It's all valid.
Yeah, it's easier, I believe, when someone else is going through it. If you're watching on a movie and you know there's a car crash and they have to rehabilitate themselves and come back, and then they become this amazing strong character. You go, yay, and everyone stands up and does a standing ovation. But then when it happens to us, we feel really bad about it because it's a different perspective. But you can feel really good about whatever's happening. And that's mastery level. I'm not saying I'm there all the time. I'm there a lot of the time. There's an idea that Gautama Buddha, who's the main Buddha that people know, like mastery is when something challenging can be happening to you and you can find the gift in it in the moment, in real time. And I love that. So if me and my wife are having an argument, if we've got a disagreement, if something's going on, like, can we be in love? Because usually a disagreement or an argument is just because someone's looking for love, or they're trying to say, I've got a need that's not being met. Not because they want to be angry with you. There's some trauma in their life. There's something. And so I'm shouting from the rooftops, Katie. Let's get 1 million people to be Q-RIT practitioners. Let's transform the world. Let's actually help people to heal. And let's get them all thriving. And we can just create absolute paradise on Earth. And Earth is beautiful already, by the way, if you just stop watching the mainstream media.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to share today, Luke, that we haven't already covered?
Money game is so interesting to me. I have had times in my life where I was making so much money. I was the spender in that T. Harv Eker thing I told you about. I was the spender. If I make 10 grand, I spend 10 grand. That was it. I'd just go on nicer holidays. I'd buy nicer things. It was a trauma thing. Everything's based in trauma. If you're a procrastinator, that's a trauma response. And if you're a spender, it's a trauma response. And so I did that. I also was homeless. Literally had zero money. Got kicked out of my apartment. I couldn't pay my rent. Couldn't buy food. And I had to ask people for food. And I had to stay on friends' sofas. And that was for about 6 months. And it was a real challenging time in my life. And I've had times where I had to decide whether to put the heating on or whether to put petrol in my car. And when you have experienced that, it gives you a level of humbleness. And again, everything has a gift in it. So the gift in that for me was, no matter how bad things get, I know I'm supported. I know the cosmos loves me. I might have to ask for support. I might have to get real humble and say to people, actually, don't have any food right now. Do you have some? There are so many beautiful people in the world that will help us. So I have this safety net now that even in my worst case scenario, I've got 2 young daughters. I've got a 3-year-old and an 8-month-old at the time of recording this. In a worst case scenario, even if we lost everything, which does happen, by the way. And in America, they actually say you're not a real entrepreneur until you've been bankrupt. That's the belief system in America. If you have not gone all out and tried a business that's so bold that you go bankrupt, you haven't earned your entrepreneurship stripes yet. We have a bit of a different perspective about bankruptcy in the UK. But, really putting your heart and soul into something like that. Worst case scenario, there's always some way. We will find a way. We're very resilient humans. So I'm thankful even for that experience. And in my business, I made more in 1 month than I used to make in a year. And that's a tremendous thing. And again, I hope everyone gets to experience that. The game changer for me was finding a mentor. I found someone who'd done what I wanted to do, and I asked them to show me how. And it was a big investment. I invested in the 1-year program, and they taught me. They took me under their wing. And that meant in 6 months, I could create a business where I was making more than I was in my job. So a lot of you who are tuning in right now, you can get guidance from yourself, but get it from this quantum self, right? Tune in, learn how to do that. We can teach you. You can get guidance channeled, or go and find someone to help you. It could be Katie, it could be me, it could be a Q-RIT practitioner, it could be whoever. Find someone who can help you get to that wisdom and just get you out of your head and into your body. Life doesn't have to be super, super complicated. We make it more difficult than it needs to be. And learning to ask for support is a sign of strength. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a big reprogramming in our society. Told to be the strong man, be the strong person. And I think it's exhausting to be that all the time. Let's have good support systems, but we have to create those support systems. In where we live here, we have just a community WhatsApp group. Could be as simple as that. When my laptop breaks, one of our neighbors, he comes and fixes the laptop. That's his skill set. Like, you could just start every single one of you who's tuning in here. You could start your own Facebook group, WhatsApp group, Telegram group. Build your own tribe. You'll find the like minds and the like hearts. It's not that complicated. And I think this is one of the ways we can transform the world, because it's so nice to feel supported. And I love being that for people. I love supporting people. But I'm so thankful for all of the support systems that I have as well.
I think as well, independence has been pushed so much over the last few decades that interdependence is what we really need now. I think particularly for women have gone along that needing to be that push of needing to be an independent woman, and then not feeling able to ask for help. It took me a long time.
Such a trap, Katie.
No.
Women got lured into this idea of being independent and come work.
Take yourself down.
I need to rely on anyone. And now, when my parents were children, one person working in the household could get a nice house, pay for everything, all done. But now you have two parents both working and still not enough money, because of the way that this trap is. The more money a household makes, the more the cost of everything goes up. So now, even though people are working, it's still not giving them that same independence. And reprogramming how our society plays with money, I think, is going to be a great thing. There's an amazing book called Sacred Economics. I invite everyone to go and read. And it teaches about different ways we can play the money game in the world, like a gift economy. And there's some other ways in there as well, where we learn how to trade with each other without necessarily relying on just pure money. And again, if we lived in a tribe, we would do that, right? You would help people because you wanted to help people. And so this whole monetary debt-based financial system is crumbling. Banks are collapsing because they're criminal organizations. They have been scamming people for the longest time. And people are looking now at different ways of creating wealth. And I think it's so exciting. And having two children, one of the big drivers for me is what will the world be like for them in 10 years, in 15 years? That's what we're all creating now. And again, thank you to everyone who is making the world a better place, because this great awakening, they can't stop it. We're doing it. One of my friends has been wide awake for like 30 years, and he says his experience is that more people have woken up or become more conscious in the last 3 years than he's observed in the last 30 years. And so that's exciting. That's more conscious parents, more conscious entrepreneurs. People are not supporting companies that destroy the planet now. They're boycotting these corporations that are putting profits over people. So go and support your friends. Go and support these companies that are doing good things in the world, because whatever you spend your money on, energetically you're voting for. Like, what you give attention to, you're saying to the cosmos, more of this, please. And so be really mindful and aware of the things you spend your money on, the foods that you eat, the things that you watch. Because if you watch these movies and you listen to this music that's twisted and inverted, they will keep creating more of it. But if we boycott that, and if we instead listen to conscious music and watch conscious films and come to conscious book publishing companies, right, who actually care about people, everything will change really, really quickly.
Thank you so much for this conversation today, Luke. I have loved every moment. Where can our listeners find you?
You can come to my website, which is lukescottofficial.com. There's a whole section on Q-RIT there. Just click the Q-RIT button. All my social medias are there at the top. Follow me everywhere. I post loads of funny stuff, loads of deep stuff. If you love memes, you'll love my Facebook page. I've got over 400 videos on my YouTube channel. I love creating content. I didn't used to, by the way. I used to be so nervous of speaking. I was so shaking trying to make a video, scripted the whole thing, but I went and I learned, and then I got my own TV show, and I've had my own radio shows, and I do podcasts. I've done hundreds of podcast interviews. And when you start speaking your truth, creating content from that place, it's such a wonderful thing. And the best artists I know and the best musicians, they create because they love it. So figure out what you love and go and create that, and then build a business around that. And there's loads of people who can help you to do that, or tap into your own inner wisdom. Maybe you'll channel $1 billion business plan too.
Thank you, Luke. Bye for now.
So ask yourself, is this for me? Give yourself some boundaries. Learn to trust your intuition now.
Thanks for listening to the Soulful Valley podcast. I trust that you will have heard something today that you were ready to hear, and that it's made you feel a little lighter, more aligned and connected with your soul's purpose, and you have been reminded of who you really are and the true nature of the power that you hold within you. My aim for this podcast is to bring love, light, wisdom, raise consciousness and ease suffering. If you've enjoyed the show, go back and listen to some of the back catalogue of previous episodes. Subscribe, follow, rate and review so that you're notified when new episodes drop in, and share this podcast with anyone that you think it may help to listen to. You can connect with me at soulfulvalley.com, and if you scroll to the bottom of the website, there are links to my social media platforms.